Good morning, Vietnam. I always wanted to say that in front of a microphone. So hi, everyone. Hope you're well. Welcome to Friday night's live stream. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, a lot of things on the agenda. We have the DUP who are having a bit of a meltdown in a figurative sense, while the rest of us are having a literal meltdown. Donald Trump is going to impose tariffs on digital service, well, in response to the digital services tax. And Keir Starmer, well, it seems that Keir Starmer's loyalists are in a bit of bother, so we'll cover that as well. So don't worry, I'll talk a bit about that as well. So I want to start off with this first story from the DUP. So it says here, DUP launches internal review into reports senior figures knew of inappropriate behaviour by Jeffrey Donaldson. So for people who don't know, Jeffrey Donaldson is the former leader of the DUP. It came out, he was convicted this week of a number of sexual offences, including those against children. And it seems some people within the DUP knew about this, including senior figures who blackmailed the former leader over this. And it seems that Jeffrey Donaldson, an evangelical Christian, attended a gay bar in London some years ago, of course, because that's what evangelicals do. They vote against measures they vote against gay rights, and then they engage in, can we say, gay behavior? It's like going to bars and massage parlors, for example. Anyway, complete and utter hypocrites. Anyway, it says here, the DUP has launched an independent review into reports that senior figures within the party were aware of inappropriate behaviour by now convicted paedophile and former party leader Jeffrey Donaldson. I don't know if he's still Sir Jeffrey Donaldson. I don't know if he has had the knighthood removed, but Donaldson was convicted on Monday of 18 historical sex offences against 2 female children, including 1 count of rape, and is now in HMP Marbury awaiting sentencing. So he will be sentenced in September. Several reports have emerged in the days following the guilty verdict, which have called into question what party figures knew of Donaldson's double life in the years before his arrest. A statement by the party on Friday evening has said that it's deeply concerned about the allegations and has launched a specialised and detailed independent review into them. It goes on to say the DUP acted swiftly when former member Jeffrey Donaldson was first charged, the statement said. As a party, we believe in the rule of law and that criminal proceedings must take their full course. Justice has been served with the guilty verdicts against him. So this investigation will be very interesting. There's a report taking place at the moment on the BBC, BBC Northern Ireland, which is looking into this. I don't know if it'll be available on the iPlayer, I believe. So it's going to look into what was going on in the DUP and what Jeffrey Donaldson was up to. Jeffrey has requested to be desired, DPV'd. Evangelicals everywhere are an existential threat, yes. We just heard Satan is offering hell as a respite against the heat, leaving maybe tricky though. Yes. Climbing out is easier than climbing in. Are you guys melting? I'm melting. We're all melting. And I honestly haven't been following this sort of debate on air conditioning. I don't understand. I've seen messages on social media from Americans saying, hey, Europeans don't have air conditioning, and yes, we do. Not every place has air conditioning, of course, and normally northern European countries were the last to install air conditioning because it wasn't really necessary. He needs to be debollocked. Debollocked, yes, well said. A horrible individual who's hopefully going to spend a long time in prison. It's people in positions of power abusing their power. But the worst thing about it, McGabbery. McGarry prison. The thing about this is, he was an individual who voted against measures, for gay rights, and then of course was engaging in all sorts of behavior. Of course, this is a guy who presents himself as a true Christian, somebody who's on the side of the most vulnerable, and then what does he do? He takes advantage of the most vulnerable. A disgraceful individual, and of course this raises certain questions about what people within the DUP knew and why they didn't come forward. There's a guy from the TUV, Jim Allister, who used to be a member of the DUP, who came out recently and said that he knew he had heard rumours about Jeffrey Donaldson. Then why didn't he go to the police? Like, if you heard rumours, first of all, you try and find out where those rumours came from, but you'd also report it to the police, because it's your duty as a citizen, as a decent human being. Like, if I heard stories about an individual, I would report it to the police, especially if I was a bloody politician. Anyway, let's move on. This story is going to run and run, I imagine. So another big story of tonight, a lot of stories dropped at the same time. Trump threatens 100% tariffs on UK over digital tax. It's not just the UK, but it's also Europe. But let's focus on the UK for a moment. Donald Trump has threatened to impose 100% import tariffs on the UK over its digital services tax on American social media firms. The US president also said that he would supersede Britain's existing trade deal. Mr. Trump has previously raised the spectre of such a move unless Britain dropped the 2% levy on the revenues of several major US tech companies. The tax targets companies whose worldwide revenues from digital services exceed £500 million, with more than 25 million of the revenue from UK users. This is a very small tax on a huge amount of income, a huge amount of revenue for these companies. And of course, Donald Trump is on the side, not of the American people, he's on the side of these tech companies. Why? Well, because they donated to him. Apple, Amazon, I believe these companies, or at least the CEOs of these companies, donated to Donald Trump's campaign, or to Donald Trump gave him gifts when he got into the White House. So, of course, he's giving them something in return. Donald Trump doesn't care about these companies. It's, hey, you do something for me and I'll do something for you. The Arab nations are probably looking at this and why didn't we gave him gold, we gave him airplanes, and he did nothing for us. These tech companies, give him a few million and look at what they get in return. Bill, there'll never be a special relationship. Special relationship? Fuck off. Yeah, there is no special relationship. But if there was, it probably ended with the Cold War, I think, with the ending of the Cold War. But really, the special relationship over the last number of years has been a bit of a joke. America says jump and the UK says how high. It's not like a quid pro quo. It's not we give you something and you give us something in return. I'm not going to try. Meg Graberry. Megraberry. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Megraberry. I thought I was pronouncing it correctly before. Anyway. So this is once again of Donald Trump throwing his weight around. Look, I don't know whether Donald Trump can actually impose these tariffs because the Supreme Court said, no, you actually can only do it in emergency situations. And this is not an emergency situation. So I imagine this is just a threat from Donald Trump. Once again, threatens 100% tariffs, not has imposed 100% tariffs. I have a better relationship with Michael. Thanks, Gareth. That's a very good analogy. Oh my goodness. Look after it. Make sure to sort it out. Speaking of the heat, I wanted to show you this clip here. We'll get on to Keir Starmer in just a moment, but I want to show you this clip from Sky News about paramedics treating patients with, we keep hearing from the likes of Nick Ferrari who say, oh, back in my day, we do lessons out in the fields, or back in my day, we didn't have air conditioning, we didn't have fridges, we didn't have color TV, we didn't have TVs, we didn't even have radios. It was like back in Nick Ferrari's day, it was like you put your ear to the window. Of course, there was no glass in the window because that was for luxury. Rich people had glass in their windows. You put your ear to the window and you'd hear what the news was from somebody shouting from the other side of the street. Anyway.
Extreme weather brings extreme demand. I've joined paramedics from the London Ambulance Service as they respond to a surge in heat-related emergency calls. But that doesn't mean the capital grinds to a complete halt. Our paramedic, Ben, stops to take a call.
So Ben's on the phone to a colleague who has just attended an emergency call out. The patient he went to see had a heat-related fall. They were faint and they needed to be seen. Now that's typical of the sort of extreme heat-related call-outs that these paramedics will be attending.
It must be sorry, I just want to say it must be terrible in London. I remember being in London a couple of years ago. I was in London last year as well, I think. But a couple of years ago, I went there during the summer. I think it was in June or maybe in May. And it was so hot. I think it's because of all the concrete. All of the buildings, they absorb a huge amount of heat during the day and they release it at night. But it's really hot, yeah. It's 35 degrees here, Max. My goodness. It was 37 degrees here today. But the humidity was quite low, so it didn't feel so hot. But I can't believe that it's 35 degrees in Britain. I remember growing up as a kid, it'd be like, wow, it was 28 degrees. It was almost 30, in Ireland or in the UK. It was insane. 30 degrees. Oh my goodness, it's a record. It was over 25. 25 was like a good summer. 28 was a scorcher. And now we're talking about 35.
Sunstroke. Now, it might not sound like a lot, but when those numbers start stacking up, you can see how that starts putting more pressure on the system.
This patient is typical of the kind of heat-related attendances that paramedics are responding to.
Just a piece of advice to people: drink lots of fluids, not just water, but if you can get electrolytes as well, like minerals and stuff like that, make sure that you drink a lot, because people tend to drink, I'll have a glass of water with my meal, or I'll have a glass of Coke or something. Try and avoid sugary drinks because that's not going to help you. If you're drinking water, okay, drink lots of water, or if you can, add some, drink some electrolytes as well. Add some, drinks that have a little bit of salt or a little bit of minerals or a little bit of sugar in them, but not very sugary stuff because it's going to dehydrate you. But drink plenty of water because you will lose it during the day, and you'll end up feeling. I have low blood pressure, and this type of weather is really terrible for me.
Extreme heat puts strain on the body, causing people to collapse, struggle to breathe, or experience heart problems. And it can also worsen existing health conditions. Paramedics say they're seeing some patients become seriously unwell very quickly.
It was a member of the public who called out the ambulance service, and they found a male collapse in the street, suspected heat stroke, and the paramedic is just going through his checks. He's talking to the patient.
Also, another piece: wear a hat. If you can wear a baseball cap or a hat or something like that, keep your head covered, because it'll create a little bit of shade. Not a huge amount, but it will create a bit of shade to protect you somewhat from the heat. Especially if you're like me, there's no protection here with hair. Deport the sun. Coming over here, taking our effing whites. Thanks, Gareth. Viper Scott, thank you so much for that super chat as well. If your body core temperature goes over 40 degrees, your brain shuts down or fries. 37 degrees is very dangerous, Max. And folk take care of you all. Yeah, thanks for that message as well. You have to try and find some shade, keep a hat on to cover your head as much if you're out and about, but of course drink as much fluid as you can.
And then he's taking his blood pressure, making sure that there isn't something more serious going on.
Obviously, when the heat gets to this extent, people just either through not drinking enough water or just long-standing health problems just exacerbates them, like asthma and other respiratory problems, heart problems and stuff like that.
During May's heatwave, the London Ambulance Service took a record 8,000 calls to its 999 service in just one day. That's the highest level of demand since the height of the COVID pandemic.
We've got about 400 extra ambulances on duty over the week, and we're expecting to see a lot of additional activity for people that are fainting, they've got difficulty in breathing and feeling.
Cold showers is a good way, a good way to cool down. In Australia, I don't know if there's anyone in Australia on the live stream tonight, but I heard from people in Australia that if you wear wet socks or damp socks is a good way to cool down your body, because it I don't know, it starts from your feet or something like that. It's a great way also to help you sleep at night, because hot feet is going to be a bit of a problem for sleeping. So not wet socks, not dripping wet socks, but damp socks, because they'll you keep your feet cool for longer.
Generally unwell out in the street.
The hottest June day on record has now been officially recorded, but the warnings are that these extreme spells will become more frequent, and that means so will the health challenges they bring. Across the country, hundreds of schools were closed or adjusted their timetables, but not every childcare setting has shut its doors. At this childminders centre, staff spent the day helping children stay cool with paddling pools, shaded play areas and plenty of fresh fruit and water.
We can jump in tennis balls. Yeah, and we can eat ice cream and we can go out and play with each other. I like it when it's warmer too, but I like it when it's summer.
While the heat is putting pressure on some services, for others, like these children, it's a chance to enjoy a record-breaking start to the summer. Ashish Joshi, Sky News.
We have both sides. We have the fun part and the not so fun part. So guys, remember, stay warm, stay cool. Keep those fluids coming in, and there was the other story I wanted to cover. Anyway, back to Keir Starmer. Here we go. So why Starmer and Mahmood are at odds over immigration minister. So an immigration minister called, what's his name, Mike Tapp. So Tapp apologises for social media post after the escalating row between Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood and the immigration minister Mike Tapp. He has now apologised for a post he made earlier on X. Tapp, a former soldier, had posted, The attempted intimidation is quite a sight. I've seen off the Taliban and taken out terrorists. Country first always. He later deleted the post, with Sky News correspondent Amanda Akkas saying Tapp perhaps realised that making such a comparison to the first Muslim Home Secretary could hardly have been more inappropriate. Comparing her to the Taliban is probably not a good idea. But it seems that he had been critical of the immigration policy and had called for the Home Secretary to exclude care workers from deportation, I believe, or from these type of measures. And, this has created a bit of a fallout.
Keir Starmer is in his last few weeks as Prime Minister, and right now we're seeing this extraordinary row play out between him and his Home Secretary. The knives are out in public.
Sorry, just to respond to Gareth. Wonder how Andrew Windsor is doing in this heat. He's fine. He doesn't sweat. Don't you know that? He's perfectly fine. Anyway.
And it matters because this is a sign of a government breaking down. So what is going on? Well, to put simply, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, she wants to sack one of her junior ministers, this man.
Mike Tapp, Dovendale MP and Home Office Minister.
And she wants him gone over an article he wrote for the Times newspaper about controversial immigration policy. Now, Mike Tapp claims he's been working on making some of the proposed changes to settled status a bit fairer. But here's the thing, the Home Office say they didn't let him say any of this. They're arguing he's been briefing government ideas, or in Westminster speak, broken the ministerial code, a sackable offence.
I don't think it's wise for ministers to sort of freestyle in government. We are a team.
Okay, why are ministers writing articles for newspapers? This is the problem here. Whether what he said is right or wrong is another issue. But why are government ministers writing articles for newspapers? They should be speaking in the House of Commons. If there's a new policy that is to be rolled out, they have to deliver this to the House of Commons first. But I honestly don't understand this thing of, let's write articles for the newspapers and then we'll release our policies. No, it shouldn't be like that.
We are a collective effort, so I don't think it's wise.
And there's another problem, because only the Prime Minister can actually sack him, which in normal times, probably fine. But we aren't in normal times. In fact, Keir Starmer's saying he has full confidence in the Immigration Minister, but is looking into whether any rules have been broken. And Mike Tapp is also digging in his heels, and in true Westminster style, is doing it all online. He has said, I won't be intimidated to drop my views, and he adds, stay classy. Now, what's fascinating is this sort of stalemate would normally happen behind closed doors, but the fact it's all out in the open can tell us a lot about what's going on right now. This is a standoff with a Home Secretary who asked the PM to quit and is now believed to back the man who's waiting in the wings. Now, enter stage left, Andy Burnham, reportedly lining Shabana Mahmood up for a big job in his cabinet if he does become PM, which...
I disagree. I don't know about you guys, but I disagree with Andy Burnham filling his cabinet with people from the previous cabinet. With the exception maybe of Ed Miliband, I think he should have cleared out all of Keir Starmer's people and brought in new people. Because he's supposed to be operating in a different way. So just moving people around, it doesn't show that you're really interested in change. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but there are 400 MPs in the House of Commons for the Labour Party. Is it, and remember, a government minister or a Secretary of State, we're talking about people generally who don't have experience in the actual role that they're doing. Now, they're, with the exception of the Justice Department, you'll likely have a lawyer or an ex-barrister or whatever, a KC. But generally, Wes Streeting has no background in the NHS, unless his parents worked in the NHS, but that's not him working in the NHS. So there's no need to have, we need to have Wes Streeting because he has experience or whatever. No, I'm really of the idea that if you want to show that you're changing, bring people in, fresh people. They can learn on the job. Some of them have probably been counsellors or whatever, but I'm not saying that you have to bring in people who are completely unknown, but change the cabinet somewhat. Don't just go with Keir Starmer's cabinet, especially if you're trying to sell the idea that you want to do something fresh, something new. He's keeping Streeting too. Yeah, I honestly don't understand this. Too many Labour friends of Israel pulling Labour's strings. Why would he keep Streeting? I think the problem is a lot of these people are networked. They have networked within the party, so they have... it's more about the experience within the party as opposed to experience in government. Although maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Andy Burnham is saying, look, I need somebody like Wes Streeting because he's been in government for 2 years. It's not a huge amount of time. Who is Burnham trying to appeal to? I don't know at this moment. Because I thought he was going to... Well, look, we haven't seen him, form his government yet. But I had the impression that he wanted to roll in and do something a bit Manchester style. So more public investment, more projects appealing to the working class, stuff like that. I'm a huge advocate for public transport, so I would be a huge advocate for free public transport. Now, I don't know whether he'd do something like that, but he could do something like free buses once a month or once a week even, or even once a month, but, free buses for everyone, free public transport for one day a month or something like that. I think that would be something that would win over a lot of people. Say, oh, that's a great policy, actually. I'm benefiting from that. It would reduce the number of cars on the road for that day. It would improve the situation for ordinary people who don't have to spend money on public transport. It would encourage more people to travel into town, maybe to spend money in the local economy, because it would be free for them to travel. Some people are not traveling around because of the cost. So I think this would be a great boost. It would be a cost, but it would be an investment, I think. Free broadband, Jay's idea, yeah. It was ridiculed back in 2019, but free broadband would be a great way to help a lot of people. Once again, I'm more of the idea of policies that people can see directly the benefit of. I think at the moment a lot of people access the internet via their phone, so free broadband probably wouldn't be as appealing today as it was in 2019. Burnham, for fuck's sake, are you going to be another stupid bastard with eyes on handling the keys to number 10 to a fucking fascist? I hope that's not the case. Once again, I keep saying, if he improves the situation for ordinary people and he's able to take credit for that, then he'll be able to stay in power. But he needs to do that. Otherwise, he's going to be replaced by Farage.
Keir Starmer is in his last few weeks as Labour Prime Minister, Keir Starmer.
Okay. So this back and forth between Starmer and Mahmoud, she was not in a position to fire Mike Tapp. So why did she do that? So I have a feeling Mike Tapp will be protected by Keir Starmer, but Keir Starmer's not going to be Prime Minister for very long. But once again, I think Andy Burnham should be bringing in new people, not just recycling old ones. There was another story I wanted to cover, but I think it disappeared, unfortunately. Yes. Local MPs call military site totally inappropriate as asylum accommodation. So here we go again. Do you remember when the Conservatives decided to move people out of detention centres into ex-hotels? Robert Jenrick was in charge. And then Reform and people like Reform and some Tories started complaining about that. And then it was like, oh no, we better not keep people in ex-hotels. We better move them out. And they decided to move them into army bases. But people didn't like them being moved into army bases, so they remained in ex-hotels. So the government decided also to... buffering again. So the government decided to move people into rented accommodation, HMOs, and social housing. But that's not working out too well either. So wherever you move the asylum seekers, people will be complaining. You've angered the buffering gods, Max. Sing. Not this again. I'm sorry, guys. Is it fixed? One of the hotels near me in Stoke, no problem that I've ever saw. I think in most cases the hotels are not a problem. Is it the heat? Maybe the buffering god is feeling the heat. Instead of moving the asylum seekers, can't we move the containers? The containers. Been okay here, and I'm in Mexico. Had 5 seconds. Seems okay now. Okay, good. Apologies for that. Once again, it's not my fault. It's YouTube. It's damn YouTube. Anyway, this MP says, an MP whose constituency includes a military base earmarked for asylum seeker accommodation told Sky News that the site is really unsuitable. Callum Miller, Liberal Democrat MP for Beechester and Woodstock, said the site had previously been considered for asylum accommodation back in 2003, and the planning inspector said it was inappropriate. Like, if it was inappropriate in 2003, 23 years ago, then can you imagine the situation now? So I think this MP is probably right. It's not suitable for us, because the army barracks generally are not suitable for asylum seekers, because asylum seekers are not soldiers, okay? The army barracks are designed in a particular way to suit soldiers, military personnel. But now it seems, okay, we can't put asylum seekers in ex-hotels because people complain. We can't put them in social housing, people will complain. We can't put them in HMOs, people will complain. So let's put them in army barracks. Like, the next stop, of course, would be camps, which I think Anne Whitcomb was calling for. Trying to keep hydrated. It's 37 here. Oh my goodness, Mandy, stay safe. Keep cool. Bizter, Max. Bizter, okay. A wee bit of buffering hamster to keep cool. A wee bit for the buffering hamsters to keep cool. Thanks so much, Viper, Alistair. Of course, she was calling for camps. Yes, of course. Anyway, let's move on to our next story. The next story, of course, is about the royal family. There are people who are not struggling to get by. So I wanted to share with you this story here about the amount of money the royal family have.
£20,000 for Princess Anne's trip to the rugby. £126,000.
£20,000 for somebody to visit a rugby game. Well, I presume she paid it out of her own pocket, right?
Travelling to Italy. And £66,000 sending staff on a recce to the US and Bermuda. The royal finances are out. So what do the numbers tell us? And more importantly, what don't they reveal? We now know for 2024-25, the King paid £12.9 million in tax. And
this is where the Daily Mail will stop and go, isn't he a wonderful man? Look at how much money he paid in tax. So that's all we need to know. We don't need to know how much he earned. We don't need to know how much he didn't pay in tax. What we need to know is 12.9 million, a huge number, huge amount of cash. Isn't he wonderful?
Prince William, who'd previously decided not to divulge his tax bill, paid £7.76 million. It's the first time we've been given these figures. And remember, unlike me and you, neither has to pay tax. This is voluntary. These are big numbers. Last year, the total spending by the royal household was £132.1 million, of which £60 million went on the restoration of Buckingham Palace. The total working royal travel bill was £3.3 million, including £130,000 for Prince William's visit to Saudi Arabia.
Look, I understand the value. I'm not critical of the royals when it comes to the value that they have when it comes to soft power. The royals are worth a lot when it comes to soft power. I think what I mean by that is Prince William going to Saudi Arabia to help facilitate trade deals, or to promote the United Kingdom and promote industry in the Middle East, British industry in the Middle East, and this is a good thing. He's an ambassador. He's working as an ambassador. But it's all the other. See, the problem is not so much the royals themselves. It's all the hangers-on. It's all the other people who are members of the royal family. And also, of course, the amount of money that the royals earn on the side. Because it's not just the money they receive, cutting ribbons and visiting Saudi Arabia. It's also for example, the fact that the Duchy of Lancaster is the representation of the king's income. And the king's income is a bit sort of opaque because he owns the seabed. Okay, so when it comes to laying cables, or if you have wind turbines that are sitting on the seabed, the king is able to take some of the revenue from that, even though he's not doing anything. If you keep the royal finances, if you think the royal finances are outrageous, wait till next year's figures reveal Andy's haircut bill this week. It's as much as a data center. It's like you're worried about data centers. What about Prince Andrew's air conditioning? Is he liquid cooled? Not air cooled, but liquid cooled. Thanks, Brad. Oh my goodness.
Over £48,000 on one trip to Lancashire for the King on the soon-to-be decommissioned Royal Train.
Okay, this is sort of taking the piss, though. You know, this is not soft power. There's no value here. Okay, £48,000. Like a lot of this, the King could have paid it out of his pocket. He's a billionaire. Okay, it's not like he has to do this thing and he has to, you know, he couldn't afford to do it himself. You know, when it comes to his birthday or when it came to the state funeral or the wedding or the coronation or anything like that, it's all paid for by the state. You could sort of understand it to a certain extent, but it's really taking the piss in some ways.
Between them, the King and Queen carried out 708 public engagements last year. And they've now decided they won't ever move to Buckingham Palace. So is all this value for money?
Why? Why does everyone hate Buckingham Palace? I remember watching The Crown and they were like, oh, Buckingham Palace, we don't want to go to Buckingham Palace. Why does everyone hate Buckingham Palace? I never understood this. You know, if the King doesn't want to move to Buckingham Palace, then why don't they, like, I don't know, sell it off? Turn it into a museum. Open it to the public. Turn it into social housing. I don't know. Wouldn't that be a great... How many bedrooms does it have? You know, each bedroom could probably host at least 2 or 3 people. There's a great form of social housing there, no?
Money. We asked forensic accountant Professor Atul Shah to look at the royal books.
There is transparency, but also there is there's quite a lot which is secret, which we don't know about.
So when you say things are secret, what is hidden in here then?
Well, we definitely don't have a clue about the overall big picture of the king's and the royal family's wealth. There is a hint that there is a large and material investment portfolio.
So we have to differentiate between the King and Charles Windsor. Because Charles Windsor as an individual is extremely wealthy. And we don't know how much he earns because he's a private individual. But as the King, he is declaring, this is how much money I have, and this is how much money we're spending. So it's the same with other individuals. It's like the crown. The crown and the state are two separate things. But they're mixed in a sense at the same time. Buckingham Palace should be made into flats. As Charlie's not going to live in it, for fuck's sake, and they're renovating on it, and the renovations on it is more money down the toilet, Max. Yes, like they're spending £60 million to renovate it, and the King is not even going to use it. Like, then why not renovate it for something useful? Like, it's a completely useless building if the King is not using it. Like, what's the point in calling it a palace if the King is not using it? It's insane. Thanks, Viper. But you're completely correct. Like, money's been used to renovate it. For what? He's the head of state. Surely he could pay more. Yes.
Which the King holds or the royal family owns.
So you think there's a lot we don't know about how much the King is worth?
I mean, I think, I'm well...
Stop calling him the King. You have to call him, I was going to say Andrew Windsor, Charles Windsor, because the King is declaring his income. He's declaring how much money he spent. But the actual guy is not.
The transparency that the King is trying to give and the royal family, I have huge respect for the public leadership that King Charles is giving to the nation, but he could go further, and by going further, he could develop much better trust from society and much better respect.
But he doesn't need to do that because it's not a democracy in the sense that you can't remove the king. Okay, it's not like he needs to do this for public relations purposes, or if he doesn't, he won't get elected king next time. It doesn't work like that. I don't understand why. Well, the king needs to be a bit more transparent. The king doesn't need to do anything, because there's nothing you can do about it, because he's a king. He's not like a president who, well, if he does something dodgy, you can vote him out. Get the taxpayer bill down by reviving the Jeremy Kyle show and getting Prince Harry on for a DNA test. Oh my goodness. And it's hot. Thank you so much, Brad. That would sort out the national debt. Make pay-per-view of a DNA test for Prince Harry. Oh my goodness. We all know what you're up to there, Brad. Oh my God. Brad. Make it a new parliament. It would be cheaper. Yeah, it'd be cheaper to build it. Well, no, not really. A new parliament is estimated to cost something like 10 billion or something like, about the same as it would cost just to do the maintenance of Westminster Abbey, Westminster Hall. Westminster. Naughty Brad, you brought. We all know what you're up to there, Brad. we know what you're referring to there. But don't worry, there are some people who think that, look, the king is doing a wonderful job and we don't need to worry about how much money is being spent. I want to show you this.
Is this money well spent, do you think?
It is more than money well spent. Bearing in mind, they are the hardest working family probably in the country.
The hardest working family in the country. So any family who's watching this, you don't work half as hard as the royals.
And you've got to remember, I can tell you...
Come on, Dan. They're not the hardest working family in the country. People are working 18-hour days out there right now. People are doing 2 or 3 jobs to put...
And the worst thing is, like, it's not just that they're working at more, that they have to work. Because if they don't work, then they don't earn any money. And if they don't earn any money, they lose their home or they're not able to feed their family. Like, if I keep saying Prince Andrew, if King Charles, sorry, I've been primed. If King Charles decided tomorrow, I'm not actually going to do any work. I'm not going to do these engagements. Nobody can do anything about it. Nobody's going to be there going, hey, King, you have to get out there, get off your arse and out there into the job market. No, there's nothing. So this comparison is nonsensical. The idea that, well, they're the hardest working family ever. Yeah, but they don't have to work. They're doing it because it's duty. But a duty is not an obligation. If they decided tomorrow, we're not actually going to do anything, nobody could do anything about it. That people could grumble, people could complain. It would be bad PR for the royal family, but he would still be the king. There's no trial by combat or something like that.
Put food on the table for their kids. Let's not be offensive by claiming that the king and queen are harder working than them.
Okay, they work exceptionally hard. You've got to remember, this is hereditary. We've had the monarchy for thousands of years. Okay, it's almost defined what we are. You know, you can give more money to...
Oh, okay, but what's that got to do with working hard? It's like saying, I work hard because my dad was a doctor. I'm a doctor, I work hard because my dad was a doctor. What's your dad being a doctor and you becoming a doctor got to do with working hard? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Like, yeah, they work hard because it's hereditary. Like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
To government, but what do? Waste it. Whether it's poor procurement in defence or the amount of money that we spend on welfare for families who actually aren't working.
Right, so you're against welfare payments then, but not the 100 million that we give to the royals? Because that is...
To the extent you've got more people on welfare who can work that can't be bothered to work.
But why does that anger you more, Dan? Why does that
more hands and do more for this country on an international level than any individual family on welfare?
What?
And I think it's the media that have got nothing.
So he's comparing a family who's on welfare to the royal family who have the duty and the privilege to travel around the world to represent the United. Like, if we switch them around, would this guy be happy with them then? If he had a family who's on welfare, put them into Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle or whatever, and take the royals and put them on universal credit, and if the family who are on benefits before started doing these international events and stuff like that, would this guy be happy? It's not about the work. It's I love them because of tradition. It's about tradition. It's not about the actual work being done. I can guarantee you. Why don't we have an office for regal responsibility, then to independently regulate the royals? It's a great idea, but nobody could do anything about it. That's the problem. Is because the king, you can't remove the king. He could have 1-star rating on whatever website, on booking.com or something, and it wouldn't make any difference because on Uber Eats or whatever, it would be useless because it wouldn't make any difference because he couldn't be sacked. The king can't be sacked. That's the problem. Glasgow Gal, thank you so much for that super chat. Buckingham Palace could be a hall of residence for Westminster MPs instead of each MP having a second home unexpected. Well said. There you go. Some of them could bunk up. Some of them would probably like to bunk up. There you go. You have hundreds of rooms. Each MP has their room. They can share a canteen. They can stay there overnight for a number of days. You don't have to live there, but they could stay there. There's a great idea. Fantastic. Save a huge amount of money. And they could all be in the same place, so they could share ideas. They could network, as they normally do in the House of Commons. But yeah, it's a great idea. You could even have a little shuttle bus that goes over and back, so they wouldn't need expensive. Or they could use bicycles. Everyone is given a bicycle, even Mark Francois, to go over and back between Buckingham Palace and the House. It's not that far, I don't think. I think I walked it, actually. It's not that far, so.
Nothing else to talk about on a sunny day that use token news headlines to go, what should we make our show about today?
Sorry, come on. Let's be fair here, Dad. The monarch, the King Charles become the first monarch in 1,200 years ever to publish his tax return. It's not a token headline, and it's absolutely. Why should they be beyond scrutiny?
Because the monarchy is different.
That's it. Because they're different. Because I said so. Wonderful. That's the greatest argument I've ever heard. Why should we do it this way? Well, because I said so. Because that's the way it is. I don't know. There's a French guy that chopped off heads that didn't think twice about the regicide max. I know, but I'm not an advocate for that. I may have mentioned it before, but Charles's dad's sister was a Greek princess who was married to a Nazi pilot in the fucking... Yes. That's been swept somewhat under the carpet. I'm pro-UK monarchy, and this caller is dumb. Look, I'm a Republican, okay? And I believe, and I'm not an advocate for the monarchy, but I think the monarchy does great things on the world stage for the UK. It's a great example of soft power, and in many ways, the king is more valuable as a diplomat than any ambassador could be. And that's to be you have to admit that even if you're a Republican. But is it worth all the expense and the tax dodging and the amount of wealth that's been transferred to the royals? Because it's not because we tend to focus on the king and the princes of Wales and a few other people, but there are hundreds of people who are, in a sense, members of the royal family who are living off the dole, okay, who have never worked in their lives and never will work, but they're able to extract a huge amount of cash in order to survive. and they support the likes of the Conservatives. So it's bad on all fronts. Anyway, guys, let's move on. Reform UK, are they in trouble? So I wanted to show you this report from Times Radio, which is a little bit interesting.
When the reform activists start to lose faith that they're going to take power, but their mindset changes. They start to fight amongst themselves more. You might get some de-defections that we've started to see now. People who defected to reform now saying, no, I don't want to do it. So in the next few weeks, it's really worth paying attention to the mood, to the vibe, and also Nigel Farage is being asked about that £5 million donation every time he steps out of his house.
Very uncomfortable interviews, Fraser. Very uncomfortable.
Exactly. And we had a Times Radio reporter chasing him outside and being pushed away by his heavy, saying, no, you can't come after it. He now looks like he's on the run. Now, the media...
I think this is perfect. Nigel Farage is on the run. He is on the run. He's dodging interviews. He's done a few, and then when he's asked about the £5 million, he gets pretty upset about it. But he can't keep avoiding interviews, especially as he wants to be Prime Minister. Now, I've said before, I don't actually think... let me clarify that. I'm not completely convinced that he wants to be Prime Minister. Because there's a huge amount of responsibility and there's a lot of scrutiny. And Nigel Farage is not a typical politician. He makes a huge amount of money on the side, unlike previous politicians, previous prime ministers. Can you imagine if Keir Starmer had some sort of business on the side where he was selling all sorts of tat? He was involved in sort of dodgy deals and stuff like that. The media would be scrutinising him. Now, unfortunately, Nigel Farage is able to get away from real scrutiny, but there will be some scrutiny. And all it requires is a few difficult questions and he falls apart. And he understands that. He's not able to defend himself. He's on the Kremlin payroll. Yes. Well, his party has taken money from the Kremlin, and they've not done any investigation into that. They haven't explained why Nathan Gill was receiving this money. Who else was receiving money? Because we don't know, because they didn't do an investigation. There should have been an independent investigation into Reform UK, but there wasn't, of course. And this is part of the Labour government. This is a problem with the Labour government as well. They need to be tougher with things like second jobs. They need to be tougher when it comes to donations, political donations. They need to be tougher when it comes to political parties cozying up to foreign influence. Not just about money, but also about foreign influence. Like, people meeting with people from political parties going to Russia, going to Moscow to have audiences with Putin. That's a problem. Or Elon Musk, political parties causing up to Elon Musk, him promoting their content on social media. That's a problem because it undermines democracy. And that needs to be called out and it needs to be challenged by the Labour government. But unfortunately, Keir Starmer, now that he's on the way out, was terribly weak when it came to that. I don't know if Andy Burnham is going to be any better, but he should try and do something about it. Otherwise, Nigel Farage is probably going to march into number 10. But once again, I'm more of the idea that Farage... Let me go full screen for a second. I'm more of the idea that Farage wants to put his guy in number 10 and control him from behind the scenes. Because he's probably selling this idea, look, it doesn't matter who's in number 10 with reform. If it's me or Richard Tice or Zia Youssef or whoever, we'll do whatever you want. This is what he's saying to the donors. This is the impression I get. So Nigel Farage can hold back, because if Nigel Farage is not the Prime Minister, then he doesn't have to answer any questions to the media. Richard Tice will have to. Zia Youssef will have to. Lee Anderson, God forbid, will have to answer questions. But Farage doesn't. And because he's so corrupt, I think he wants to be in a position where he decides what's going on in Westminster, but he's not getting his hands dirty. I could be wrong. This is my speculation. It could be the case that he actually wants to be Prime Minister just for the thrill of it, a bit like Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson liked the idea of being Prime Minister, not actually doing the work, as we saw on a number of occasions. And Farage could be like that. He wants to be Prime Minister just for the title, and then he won't go to meetings. He won't do PMQs. And once again, even if he does nothing. Parliament can't really do anything. Like, if there's PMQs and Nigel Farage as Prime Minister doesn't turn up, what happens? He just appoints somebody else to do it. And the media will complain and the politicians will complain, but Farage won't do anything about that.
Around this week was disastrous when he went into studio after studio, and he absolutely didn't have an answer. He got angry. He was saying to the presenters, "Where do you spend your money? How dare you ask me how I'm spending my $5 million?" He looks like he's not enjoying it anymore, and we'll have to see how that plays out.
And I agree, he's not enjoying it. It's no longer fun to Farage. He prefers to be the man on the stage. He prefers to do interviews with friendly outlets like Talk TV or GB News, of course. And even with GB News, he's been challenged a couple of times, very strangely, challenged on GB News. And he doesn't do it well. He doesn't seem to enjoy it anymore. The Alex Salmond show was on Russia Today, but Russia has no editorial control. Is that true? Farage has not voted in the 70 votes in Parliament, and has not had a constituency meeting, only turned up a few times in Parliament. There we go. He doesn't give a crap. He doesn't give a crap. And unfortunately, so many people still think, yeah, he's doing a wonderful job. Yeah, keep voting Farage and reform. Like, what are they expecting?
The United Nations.
So, guys, we're almost at the end of the stream, so I just want to cover this final story on the war in Iran. Yes, there is a war in Iran still going on. It hasn't ended yet. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. I was going to say open, but it closed just as I was about to finish the sentence. Because it keeps opening and closing all the time. But this time it's closed, and it's creating a lot of problems, of course, for trade.
Nations has halted the evacuation of thousands of seafarers in the Strait of Hormuz. That's after a vessel came under attack. Our military analyst, Professor Michael Clark, is here in the studio with me. Hello again to you, Michael. What do we know about what has happened here?
It's interesting, Sam. In the last hour or so, we've seen more material coming out from the UK Marine Trade Organisation or Operations Group, who are very accurate about these things. So the ship was the Ever Lovely, and it's called that because it's owned by a Taiwanese company called the Evergreen. So that's why. It's flagged in Singapore. But what they said is that this ship was hit on the starboard side on the bridge, broke some windows, and that was it. No control surfaces, no functioning of the ship was affected whatsoever. And the ship has now gone out of the strait. It didn't even have to stop.
So what does that tell us about who did it?
That tells me that if it was hit on the starboard side and it was just off the tip of Oman, of the Musandam Peninsula, so the side it was hit was the side facing Oman, not the side facing Iran, which would indicate it wasn't a drone, not a missile, and the damage was so small. I think it was somebody in a small boat firing something at it, probably an RPG, a rocket-propelled grenade, something like that, which did a small amount of damage. But what it indicates is that attack led the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, to suspend operations for a while.
So this is the problem here, that even something as small as an RPG can end world trade, trade in the Strait of Hormuz for an indefinite period of time.
What that tells us is it takes nothing to close the Strait of Hormuz. And as this process goes on, negotiations between America and Iran, the Strait of Hormuz will open and close according to this battle of wills between the International Maritime Organization, which the Americans want to promote, this route round Oman, this difficult route, and the northern route around Larak Island, which is what the Iranians say. You've got to use this route. This is the Persian...
I really don't understand why people in America, within the Trump administration, just don't tell Trump, look, it's over. You lost, okay? Let's move on. This is damaging the world economy. We're going to lose our seats at the next election, the midterms, and they need to tell Donald Trump, look, it's over. You lost. Get with the picture, okay? You win some, you lose some. This one, you lost, okay? We need to move on. Cry in the corner for a bit and then stand up and be a man, okay? Something like that.
Gulf Straits Authority, which we've established, which has no legitimacy, but they're claiming that you've got to do things according to their authority. So there's that battle going on, and every time they want to make a point, they'll find a way of closing it. Equally, every time something happens in Lebanon, which is supposed to be part of the ceasefire, they will be able to say, well, because of what's happening in Lebanon, we're closing the Strait. And I think we'll see the Strait open and close on a regular basis.
Trigger, isn't it?
Exactly. So it's going to be very difficult. It gets more difficult because this Omani route, right around the tip of the coast of Oman, it's already, I mean, the depth there is only about 25 metres, so it's already pretty shallow. It's rocky. We're in the middle of the southwest monsoon in India. That's June to September. In July and August, the southwest monsoon normally brings very humid air from the Arabian Sea into the Gulf and creates mist. It throws up sand into the air. Visibility gets very difficult. And so you've got captains in the Gulf in low visibility with little boats zipping around. Most of them are smugglers. They're smuggling cigarettes from Iran to Oman, lots of other things too, but a lot of cigarettes. So you've got little boats zipping around and nobody knows the difference at a distance between a little boat that's a smuggler's boat and a little boat that's an IRGC gunboat, which has got rockets on board. It's very fraught, and it will get more fraught as the visibility decreases, as it normally does in July and August.
Wonderful. Just absolutely wonderful, isn't it? All thanks to Donald Trump, because Donald Trump had a plan to secure the Strait of Hormuz. Oh, wait a minute. The dog ate it. Or it went to another school. I'm not sure which it is. This is more insanity as a result of Donald Trump's insanity. So guys, I want to say thanks to everyone who came on tonight. Thank you so much to everyone who sent a super chat. Greatly appreciated. I hope you're still with me. You haven't melted away. Before we go, we have one for the road. Hope you enjoy this, and I wish you a wonderful weekend. Remember to keep hydrated. Drink lots of electrolytes if you can. And I will see you on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel. But before we go, I want to show you this one, which I hope you will enjoy. Let me get out of the way.
Looking to take the next step in your career? The UK government is hiring and is now inviting applications for Prime Minister. Again, with a generous pay offer and a substantial severance package however long you stay, you can join the hundreds of people who've already been a Prime Minister in the past few years. Enjoy a fast-paced and dynamic work environment? You'll be alongside a team that changes practically every day. Not interested in being an elected politician? You could be offered £5 million as a mysterious personal gift and then suddenly become very interested in being an elected politician. And don't worry about not having a high IQ. The right person for the job will know how to maintain important relationships and won't be afraid to take instruction when required. A criminal record? A massive backstabber? A history of previous failures? No problem. With our streamlined application process, you could be fast-tracked from ordinary human person to Prime Minister in just several weeks. Not ready to make a change? That's okay. Thanks to incredible pressure from the UK press and social media, our next recruitment drive probably begins in just under 2 years. Apply now and be UK Prime Minister for a bit. The successful candidate must be lacking in integrity, moral fortitude and shame. The UK government is an equal opportunities employer and accepts applications from any fella who went to Eton or Oxbridge at a push.
It's true. So guys, have a great weekend. I will see you on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel. Stay safe, take care, and good night. And stay cool, most of all.